to become a world food champion and to win it back-to-back and go out to the US and get it done. Before we do, quick shout out and a welcome to everyone at the World Food Championship Australia page, Facebook page rather. And yeah, good to have you guys on board and appreciate you coming and watching the show as well. Make sure you join in the conversation. John's a wealth of knowledge. And yeah, if you have any questions, pop it in the chat and we'll see those chats as well. And before I go any further, just a quick shout out to my sponsors. Quickly, firstly, Without Fear, who create clothing that inspire conversation. 100% of their profits go to mental health projects that tackle fear as a barrier to getting help. Amazing to have them on board again, and they do amazing work. So go check out their website. And then Versus Merch, who do this amazing merch I'm wearing. They put a logo on anything for you. Go check it out, versusmerch.com. And Jack's Creek Premium Australian Beef. I absolutely love eating this beef. They want the best, world's best grain-fed steak, world's best fillet steak, world's best ribeye steak. So if it's world's best, you've got to go check it out. And obviously, Mount Pleasant Brewers too for having us here. Absolutely love the studio. It is just an amazing spot to do the BBQ Brews Show. Just proper barbecue and brews. But before I go any further, actually let's just get John in and have a quick chat. Give me a second. It's always gets a bit tricky. John, welcome, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, morning, Ryan. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. I mean, you've seen the show before, and I've just got to ask, what are you drinking this morning?
Oh, mate, I'm being sensible, having a hydrolyte. The body needs some refueling. So later it'll be home brew, but first things first.
Absolutely. I'm having a bit of a Mount Pleasant Road, the raspberry wheat beer, which it's got a nice little tartness to it. I absolutely love this beer and getting me through the show. But, mate, how are you feeling? 7 days in the US, got there, smashed out, won the title again for the best seafood, and here you are back in Oz, and it's like it's been less than a week, but you're back at work as well, mate. You must be feeling it.
Yeah, look, it was a pretty brutal week. Left here Sunday, arrived there Sunday for the 17-hour time difference, and then left Sunday a week later. So yeah, came home with the World Seafood Championship again, and yeah, back here a day and then straight back to work. So yeah, in all fairness, the body has felt it the last 3 days, like a lot of aches and pains and a bit of swelling and what have you. But small price to pay for a title as big as it is.
No, that's it, man. And it I must admit, there's quite a lot to go through with you, and we know a lot of you may or may not know, but John and I met what, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago at the World Food Championships in Sydney. That's where you won that first ever title, and obviously won the golden ticket to go to the US. So that's, it's been a heck of a lot of a journey. A lot of things have happened since then, but I just want to focus on this current win. So obviously, again, back-to-back world seafood title at the moment. So tell us about it, mate. You got an amazing score. It was a 97.5 out of 100. The judges absolutely loved you. How did it go?
Yeah, look, in all fairness, I was probably lucky to make the final because the judging criteria was a little bit different this year. The top four went through on points. 2 people went through on the master judges, which were master judges circling the kitchen arena, and then 2 people had a cook-off in Bite Club to finish in that top 7th position. Fortunately for me, I went through on a master judge's decision. Obviously based on what they saw in the kitchen arena. But what was really good to see this year is that, in the first round, my points in the first round were, I think it was 94.7 or 94.8, and I actually finished in 9th spot. So to have 9 people above you out of 100, it goes to show that the benchmark is raised significantly, which is a testament to everybody. And ideally, that's what it's all about. It's about being the best you can. Unfortunately, I moved into the top 7 round. We had a day off the next day, which was the Friday. On the Friday, I did a sponsors event, which was Champions Table. So it was a lunch for. Yeah, look, it was a lunch for 8-9 people, 4 courses in 60 minutes. So I had to produce 4 8 to 32. Wow. So 32 dishes in 60 minutes using sponsored ingredients. And yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity to actually speak to people about each of those courses and a little bit more of the philosophy behind the food.
Yeah.
And then the very next day was the final for seafood. So 7 of us went toe to toe. We had to do, you do 1 presentation plate and 10 sample plates. So technically 11 dishes in an hour 30. The turning window opens at an hour 20, and you've got 10 minutes to get all your food up and presented. Unfortunately for me, once we went through sort of the judging at the end, score a 97.5 across 5 judges, out of 100. I was pretty blown away by that, to be honest. And gone back-to-back World Food Championships for seafood. I'm the current world champion food holder, and it's the first time in its history that the current champion has gone back and won a category to retain their world title overall. So just unreal, breaking record after record, and mate, and to do it solo, it's monumental. It's huge, and it's a fair undertaking. There's a lot of work in the background to sort of execute what you need to do, and I've been fortunate enough to establish a few contacts now, which just made the process a little bit easier this year.
Absolutely, mate. And I think that's the one thing I want to sort of pick on. Like, I mean, like you said, you've done the initial seafood championships. You did that solo. The overall was solo, and you've done this one solo as well. But talk us through that, man. Like, how do you what's the process you have to go through? I mean, because I think most people have 2 or 3 chefs that cook together, right? So that's sort of a team effort. So for you to come in and smash out solo to do all those and then serve up 11 dishes, like, that's got to be some crazy. Like, how much are you practicing? How much are you actually having to prepare prior?
Well, you're going to be blown away when you hear this. I conceptualize the dish, but I only ever practice it once. So all the build up, it's insane. And so what I do is I conceptualize the dish. I draw pictures on a piece of paper. And then when I go to do it at home in the kitchen, I get out all my equipment and I write down the list of equipment that I need. Then I write down all the ingredients. And while I'm doing that cook in the time frame, I'm also timing where I'm at certain stages. And then I lesson plan it. So once I've done the cook at home, I then write, in the first 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, et cetera, all the way through. And then once I've done it once, I feel really good. So, look, to be fair, I've only cooked both those dishes once. Well, twice with the championships, and that's it.
Amazing.
But in saying
you're really not helping anyone who wants to. There's no tips for anyone there except be as good as John.
But look, it's just the way that I work. Once I know that I can fit it within a time slot, I feel really comfortable. And look, to be fair to everyone as well, I've been fortunate to meet a gentleman over there called Whitey. He helps me with all my equipment. So I send all my equipment lists over. I've linked up with suppliers because what everyone needs to understand, the seasonality is opposite. So as we're going into summer, they're going into winter. So, you've got to be really mindful of what you can get your hands on because you may have the best intentions in the world, but when you get there, that product may not be available. So, there's a lot of research and reaching out to people to sort of join all those dots. Look, I've been really fortunate in that regard to, establish those connections and those contacts. When I went over last year for the first time, I actually reached out to Curtis Stone and he put me in contact with one of his head chefs at Maud Restaurant. They linked me up with a few contacts in regards to supply. And then, I went out, I met them, I could handpick my produce. And that to me is really important because, when you have the opportunity to speak to the judges, more so in the final round, if you're fortunate enough, I can share my story in regards I didn't just rock up and put some food on a plate. There's a reason why that product is there. Even in the final round this year, the salmon that I used was a Westeros salmon. It's a hand-reared farm in Scotland, so it's got a sustainability footprint. So, and I love talking towards food in that respect because, that's where we're heading. And, if I can support those initiatives through aquaculture, it helps tell the story on the plate. Obviously, we had sponsored ingredients. So Sam's Club, we had to use lump meat crab and snow crab, Bolner's Fiesta spices. We had to use the lemon seasoning mix. So once again, we had to showcase, those products in our final dish and how we elevated those in our presentation and flavor profiles.
Amazing, mate. Amazing to hear. And look, I think one thing I want to touch on is that, yes, like you said, you practice only once. And then once you conceptualize it and you write it down, you can do it in a time frame. But that's come through years and years and years in the industry. Something that I think maybe a lot of people may not know about you is, like, I guess you've been doing some amazing work in hospitality as sort of, corporate chefs, head chefs, and things like that over the last few years. But do you want to give us a little bit of your history, mate? Because I mean, obviously, you don't get to practice once and go smash out the World Food Championships unless you've got a few runs on the board, right? So tell us a little bit about exactly your background.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's quite interesting. My background started very early. I've been sort of in the kitchen from the age of 12. When I was old enough to leave school, got an apprenticeship, fully qualified at the age of 19. And at the age of 19, I started working in a Chinese restaurant that sat 500 people. So sort of thrown in. I went to TAFE here. It's a 4-year course. Very interesting doing Eastern cuisine, but learning French fine dining at TAFE. And what that did, that really forced me to knuckle down and learn, because I wasn't practicing what I was learning at tertiary college back in the workplace. 2 years later, I landed myself a job in a 5-star hotel. And then I went from Chinese cookery into French fine dining restaurant. So the transition was enormous. But I'm the kind of person where when I was sort of coming up through my career, my biggest fear in life in the kitchen was failure. And I would push and I would push and I'd push. I'd be the first person in the kitchen. I'd set up everyone's benches and I'd be the last person to leave. But I was dedicated. I was dedicated to be the best I could be in that environment. And I guess that is that competitive nature that, I played a lot of sport as a junior. I played representative rugby league as a junior. And it's competitive. To be the best, you've got to be on point. You've got to show up. You've got to do your training. You've got to do your practice. If you want to do it half-assed, then expect a half-assed result. So, and that's on you. You know what I mean? So look, through my career, I've been fortunate to work in 5-star properties. I've ventured into off-site catering and then into big group corporate roles. And I've been fortunate enough throughout my career that in those positions to work with some high-performing teams, more so from a mentoring point of view, giving them a sense of autonomy. And I've been quite rewarded in that regard, that the loyalty that I've been able to maintain in industry is being allowing people to do the best they can with what they have. And my job is to feed that and nurture that and give back to that. So, I've been cooking professionally up until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, I stepped out of, the professional kitchen world and then sort of moved in, I guess, to the other side, sales, food products. And today I'm an ambassador for Yumba, which is an abalone company here in South Australia. Aquaculture, fully sustainable. That's really close to my heart in regards to, how do we give back to nature? And, with a growing population of people, what does our sort of, food lifeline look into the future and how are we supporting that? So I do a lot of development with products. I work with a lot of collaborations in regards to product and, how we can elevate that into food service or, even at home, for instance. So, look, I've been really fortunate in my career that I've sort of touched, many different areas across organizations, people. I've been part of the Women in Hospitality mentoring program, so mentoring females in industry to elevate them into more senior managerial positions. And even today, I assist schools in regards to student assessments, which is volunteered. So I do spend a lot of time in that space, although, I've sort of stepped out of the arena, so to speak. There's still a lot to give and to offer back.
Absolutely. I think you're also taking all that industry, experience and know-how, and obviously, like you said, you're sharing that with everyone, but also with the World Food Championships, you're inspiring as well. So I remember, last year the World Food Championship was the first run, and obviously you won the seafood in Sydney, and then this year you returned as judge. And then obviously, and then that comes with a certain level of obviously judging and choosing a winner, but also comes with a certain level of coaching. I've seen the judges and how they work. It's a lot more about coaching and things like that as well. So, how do you feel? Obviously, bringing that sort of knowledge and skill and sharing that with the new generation. What did that new this year's? Because unfortunately I missed out on this year's World Food Champs, but what did this year's crew look like and feel like? Obviously coming in knowing what you've achieved through it all. So it's got to be amazing.
Yeah, look, Ryan, without a doubt, I think this year it's like, obviously last year was the first opportunity Australia had to participate. Yeah. This year it's gained a lot more momentum. And interesting, having the opportunity to judge at the World Food Championships Australia, I think it's really elevated it even more, being a judge, holding the titles that I have. Yeah, even absolutely. People contacted me after, John, I want to be there. I want to do it. I even said to the organizers in Dallas, I've got, a contingent of people and good quality people that are putting their hand up and they want to be a part of this. So, I guess from an awareness point of view, it's been huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is, and as well as I do, Ryan, is it's the networking opportunities that it starts promoting. Like even Princess Anne that went over and competed in barbecue. Yeah. She got the networking, she's connected with people. And the thing is, in the food sport, the camaraderie is seriously next level. Even going over, I was on, the Walk and Talk podcast. And then, they did one. And then I posted it here. Now, all of a sudden, they've had all these downloads from Australia and everybody wins. That's what's so good about it. There's no one trying to take advantage of anybody else. And that's what I really enjoy about people. Authentic. They're very genuine. Even the finalists at the top 7, when we're standing on the stage there, and I took out, the championship, just the generosity and kindness, even in defeat, is world class. It is seriously world class. And for that, I'm really humbled by, because, we're competitive by nature and people can take that the right way or the wrong way. But the way everyone embraces it is seriously unbelievable.
Absolutely, man. Like even to come to some of the the barbecue competitions here in Australia, that camaraderie. I remember every time I go to one of those things, it's just amazing to actually sit there and absorb the love. And same like you said, like if someone, like whoever wins, everyone gets up and gets behind him. And you mentioned food sport, right? And the US food sport's like a whole different level. So you've obviously experienced in Australia, you've seen it, what it's like, but what's food sport and that sort of mentality, and that, like you said, people come together and actually competing? Because World Food Championships, like you said, this is year 2 for us in Australia, but it's been going on for like 10, 15 years in the US, I think, roughly. But in saying that, it's massive over there, right? Like, just, I guess, talk us through how many people compete to get to that 7. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, look, mate, it's monumental, and that they compete all year round for qualifying events. It is.
Yeah,
it is. They have burger, they have chili, they have barbecue, and there's thousands of people throughout the year at all these festivals that compete to get a spot at the WFC at the end of the year. It's just huge. And even with barbecue, you see all the trailers rolling in, and there's bunk beds in them, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it is a whole new level. And you've got people competing. This is its 11th year for the World Food Championships. 11th, and mate, there's been people that have entered every single year for the whole duration that it's been going, and I'm like, that is just incredible. So there's a lot of history. There is a lot of memories. There's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of emotions. So it is huge. And when to think now that, we've gone through all the categories and all the teams this year, this year the teams were a little bit smaller. Last year there was 30 teams that made it into the World Food Championships. This year there was 20. So, and then last year top 10 went through. This year top 7 went through. But to think now,
so big change.
Yeah. Look, and there's been a new sort of promoter has taken that over in IMG. So, the largest event company globally. So there's bigger plans to sort of move into the future, which is always exciting in regards to growth and development and opportunities. But to not to take away from the organisers of WFC, they do a tremendous job, professional outfit, very helpful, and it's just really, really well run. There's no confusions as to where you need to be and what's going on, and it's great to be a part of a well-run professional machine, really. So, and it was nice to see. We had a nice little contingent of Australians head over this year. Representing dessert and barbecue, and the other categories was burger, and look, it's just going from strength to strength, and where I sort of see my role in it all is obviously helping the teams here to get to that level of competitiveness that we are seeing on a global stage, and so I've got a little bit to offer in that regard as to how we do things here and what is expected over there, because it's a bit of a different playing field, but it's all exciting nevertheless.
No, excellent. And I think you've played a huge part in that ramp up in Australia, absolutely. And I think one thing I just want to quickly touch on is that the value of that golden ticket in Australia, the fact that, like you said, you've got only so many people competing to get to the top 7. To be able to be in the competition with a golden ticket is amazing. So I think anyone is thinking about getting onto the World Food Championship Australia next year has got to do it, because that golden ticket, yes, it's the ultimate way to get out there, and like you said, create those networks and then build on it.
Mate, 100%. If you think of all the events that they have over in the US all year to get a one spot in 20 at the end. But yet you can win a golden ticket here and go straight into top 20. That's monumental. If that's not a massive incentive, I don't know what is.
And with the World Food Championship Australia too, just to touch on, so there are 2 events. So there's two chances to win golden tickets in I think it's 3 categories. I think it was seafood, dessert, and barbecue. I think that's the 3 categories you can win golden tickets for here in Australia. So absolutely, I think if you're on the fence, get off the fence and make sure you sign up next year. I think is the big takeaway.
Oh yeah, without the opportunities are huge.
Absolutely, mate. Now I just want to, I guess, talk about what goes into it all. So it's all good to win the golden ticket, but then you took it to a whole nother level last year. I remember following your story, and and I think I followed you through the socials and seeing you win that seafood, win the world title, and it was just so cool to see. And I think just the fact it was the first time it was Aussie, you took it all the way. The first year we had Aussie, the World Food Championship as well, was amazing, mate. And so again, I think a lot of people, we've got to thank you for that, sort of inspiring so many different people in that competition side of things, and I guess putting Australia on the map when it comes to it. It is really, really impressive work you've done there. And with that too, how important, like you said, you've got your network and you've got your sponsors and things like that, but how important it is to have your wife Karen and your family and so many people helping you through this journey, because it's not simple and it impacts so many different things, but it must be so good to have that network around you.
Look, without a doubt, buddy. For me, it actually gets quite emotional at times. It's very hard to leave a family, your wife and 3 kids behind, because she's got a mum duties. I don't want to say to do, but to pick up, because I'm not here to help out. So, for her to give up her time or my time and be behind me and support me makes me really proud. It sort of gives me a sense of purpose. I mentioned to the judges, I think it was last year, about even when I won the championships, like the inspiration behind it all. And it's my family, I sort of want to demonstrate to my kids that, if you work hard enough, at anything and you want to achieve and you believe in yourself and you have the love and the support, you can do anything. And that was sort of my message, not just for me, but for my family. And, you know, and if I didn't have that support, being way over there, it would have been really challenging. And, you know, right down to the degree, and this is probably getting down to sort of a bit more personal. You know, I'd write cards and I'd leave them here for the family. I'd hide them. They'd put some in my luggage. And, you know, to me, that was
awesome.
That was inspiring for me, you know, and I'd read the cards every day before I went to compete. You know, I had these little like key rings and that with family and all their names on it. You know, I got a bracelet with them with their names on it. So it's just, that to me is quite inspirational, and that's what motivates me. And, you know, I've got a job to do, and part of the reason why they didn't come is it's not a holiday. It's, you know, that there's a lot of standing around. They probably get bored and be seen as a bit of a distraction. And I don't want to feel that I'm letting them down, because I'm not the dad or the husband. I'm there to compete. And that's the bittersweet part of it all. Do you know what I mean? And that's the hard part. So, you know, there is a lot of work behind it. You know, I had support over there, and a gentleman called Whitey. He supported me last year with equipment and mixing bowls and spatulas. So, you know, I'll put all my lists in, and he meets me there Monday morning. It's all boxed down, and then it comes up. And same with and same with suppliers. You know, all the suppliers delivered to the lobby of my hotel. So those arrangements, and those relationships are critical to me achieving or being able to achieve what I did, because without those relationships, none of this would be even possible.
I bet, man. I think, you know, like you said, you know, different seasons, different produce, just to try and bring it all together, and amazing. And I've just got to ask a little bit about, you know, this tablecloth that your mother-in-law sort of helped you make. Talk us through this a little bit, because I saw a little snippet of it the other day, and I was like, what? I want to know more about exactly how much effort went into it.
So the theme that we had for our first round was New Year's Eve gala. And I thought, right, I've got to go high end. So when you go over, you have a turn-in platter. It's a silver platter that you've got to present your plates on. So when I went over, like the first year last year, you didn't know what to expect. But when you put the plates on the platter, because of the rim, they don't sit flush. They sort of tilt and whatever, right? So they don't look too fabulous. So I said to my wife's mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, look, I'd love to do a little tablecloth that's elasticized and fits over the platter. And then what we did, what she made on the inside was a little mini bean bag. So then the bean bag sat flush with the rim. And then you pulled this tablecloth, which is elasticized, right, from one end of the platter to the other. And then I could put the plates on. And, mate, it was gold because it had a nice little silver shimmer through it. It was black. It was really clean. But that's the detail that you need to get to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, I had a guy with plates. So I had to make sure the plates fitted on. Last year, my main presentation plate was probably a little bit too large. So then I had to change the size of that plate. And then, it's just, it's all those 1%ers that really add up.
Yeah. No, amazing, mate. Amazing. No, it's good to see the family get behind you and help you out. Now you went from obviously massive work in the hospitality industry, great, great career, and obviously winning these things. I've got to ask, purely because I think it's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world, what's it like cooking on live television? Because you've done that a few times now, and talk us through, man. Like that's got to be like a pinch yourself moment, right? To be on Channel 10 and just cooking on the breakfast show.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm on tomorrow morning on Channel 7 at 10 to 9. So
awesome.
No rest for the wicked, right? So look, it's the thing is, once again, right, you have to be organized because the slot's only anywhere between 4 to 6 minutes that you need to cook a dish. So obviously setup, timing. You've got to be careful about the amount of noise that you make live on set. You know, no blitzers, no blenders. It all comes down to sort of that preparation and setup. So you get a fairly quick brief on what the episode's all about. So tomorrow the segment will cover obviously the award-winning dish that I did.
Yep.
So I'll present that, which will be sort of pre-plated. And then I'll do a simplified version for everybody at home. So certain elements of that, but just not the mosaic. So yeah, there's two components to it, but I've got sort of between 4 to 6 minutes to get that message across that's effective. But from depending which network you work with, the behind the scenes are very different from station to station. And once you get familiar with that, the setup's fine. When I first went, oh my God, my pack down was huge. But now I've got it all consolidated. It's tiny.
Awesome.
So that, there's some lessons and learnings without a doubt, but that's experience, right?
Oh, amazing, John. Amazing. I must admit, I'm super pumped for you, and just seeing all the way everything that's happened since last year. Now, just to touch on, so obviously you're going back now to defend your World Food Championship title. When's that? Talk us through it. What's the prep, and what's going through your mind at the moment to go back and take that on?
Yeah, certainly. So we're heading back to Bentonville, Arkansas, the same location as last year, I believe, the culinary college there. And that is in May next year. So Mike McLeod was in contact with me just the other day, and either at the end of this month or the beginning of next month, we should start receiving information as to, I guess, dates, times, and what happened last year. And what was really great with the organising committee is that they held fortnightly meetings for a few months leading up to it to start talking about what the next rounds are going to look like, what to experience, where to be. And what's really good is that you're there together as that competing group. So you meet the other 10 category winners. It's in a nice intimate setting, and they sort of set us up for success on what those challenges are. For people who are not familiar with Final Table, it's where all the category winners come together after the World Food Championships to compete for the overall World Food Championship. Last year, there was three cook-offs. The first round was an Amuse-Bouche challenge, and then the 5 teams that moved through, 5 went home straight away, 5 moved through. That evening, no sooner after that, Rafael Rios's restaurant, Yo's, tasting a dish which was for the very next morning, was taste and recreate. So he did a barbacoa dish, and I think that was presented to us about 6 or 7 o'clock, and we were done by 8, and then we're back in the kitchen next day recreating that dish without a recipe. His produce from his farm, which was exceptional, but it was like an open pantry. And mate, I tell you, to cook a chuck roast and beef short rib buttoned out in 60 minutes is it had all the teams sort of pushed. And then what happened from there is the top 3 teams. That was insane. And then the top 3 teams from that then moved into the final. So we went back in to the room. We were notified who moved through. And then an hour later, we were cooking in the final. And that final round was cooking courses 3 and 4 off a tasting menu based off Crystal Bridges Museum's Tim Ordway's food philosophy. So, the turnaround's pretty quick. So you compete on day 1, plus all the sponsorship obligations. We're at Sam's Club doing a Bite Club challenge. So, it's a great period of time. But, ideally that's what it is. So, hopefully in about 6 weeks' time, we'll start beginning to understand what those challenges are in May next year, and mate, 6 months away. So by the time Christmas is here and we get over that hump, mate, we'll be, head down, bum up, and gunning for it.
Mate, I'm definitely gunning for you, mate. Looking forward to seeing how all that goes. And I mean, besides the World Food Championship, and obviously, you do some work with Squizify and things like that. What's next for you, John? Like, I mean, you've got obviously TV tomorrow morning and things like that. But what's coming up for the rest of the year and outside of the World Food Championship?
Yeah, sure. So, look, for me, mate, I'll do the TV things. I'll wait and see what pops up in regards to sort of opportunities. And look, I'm an ambassador for Yumba Abalone. So, next week it's back to product development, using their products, creating more dishes. So yeah, we just get back in the groove and keep going forward. So keep staying busy.
No, mate, absolutely. And I think one thing I've noticed, I guess I follow you on Facebook, Instagram, as well as on LinkedIn as well. You are prolific in your activity, which is great to see, and which obviously helps share the stories and the information. So you do that really, really well. And yeah, looking forward to seeing your journey, mate, and see how we're going. And again, congratulations on your back-to-back. It's been really good to have a chat. And just before I go, I just want to ask you one last question, John. And I guess you're inspiring so many different people out there. Who inspires you, and who gets you going in that creative sense in the food industry?
Yeah, look, it's I get asked that quite a lot, and funny enough, there is no one particular person like currently, but there was a lady a few years ago, and I mentioned this at Final Table in actually my Amazbush challenge, because there was components of that dish that related back to her, and that was a lady called Carol Silveraja. I was 24, 25 at the time, and I was working in an Asian bistro. I was running it, and she loved my food style, and she took me under her wing, and we're fortunate enough to be invited to the James Beard Foundation in New York and do a Nonya style dinner. And we're one of the first Australians ever to be invited to New York to cook at the foundation. And the only way you can get there is by invitation only. So at the age of 26, I'm thinking, wow, I'm really a nobody. Do you know what I mean? And for her to pick me up and take her under her wing, that has been really valuable to me throughout my career. And that's what I've really aspired to is that giving back, being supportive, being nurturing. In regards to creative and development, I spend a lot of my own personal time doing that, but not really influenced by anyone in particular. Like, without a doubt, there's a lot of things that you see and go, so I'll take a bit of this and I'll take a bit of that. And, but I love now, not being in the kitchen so much for 4 years. I love the creative space now because I've got the time to be creative. I've got the time to play.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it probably more now so than I ever did when I was in group executive chef roles, because in those environments, it's all about, procurement, buying power, profit and loss. And although you're developing people, you're not necessarily on the tools, tangibly touching food and being creative. And now I'm sort of back in that space, and that's the love and desire that I've been missing, which I love. But now, with these collaborations, working with Yumba, having that opportunity to be creative, it's like, oh, I'm in my happy place. Thanks very much.
That's amazing, mate. So good to see and so good to hear. John, thank you so much for your time this morning, mate. I appreciate you sort of cramming us in, especially so close to coming back from the US and trying to get your jet lag fixed as well. All the best next year. I'll be watching and cheering you on from down in Geelong here, and wishing you all the best, mate. And again, congratulations, and good on you, mate. It's been bloody amazing to watch.
Yeah, no, mate, my pleasure. And just a big shout out to everyone that supported me, followed me, words of encouragement. It's really uplifting. It doesn't go unnoticed at all. So a huge thank you to everybody.
All right, John, thanks so much, mate. And we'll talk to you soon.
See you, buddy.
All right, everyone, that was John McFadden, World Food Champion, back-to-back Seafood World Champion as well. Amazing to hear his story, and looking forward to seeing how he goes next year. So keep an eye on his socials and catch him on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. John is prolific with his sharing of his information and his products that he uses and things like that. So make sure you go check him out. And look, thanks heaps for watching the show. And just a quick shout out to the sponsors before I go. So Without Fear, who obviously create clothing that inspire conversation. Check out their website. Jack's Creek, Versus Merge, and of course Mount Pleasant Road Brewers, where I am here at the moment. So thanks everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.